Hey everybody, welcome. Capt Ron here with the gang, Dieter Staudinger and Eric Larson, our regular crew here for this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live. I appreciate you all showing up. I'm on a remote location, so I got to remember to look up over my thing to my camera so it doesn't look like I'm kind of depressed. And I got to stay out of the sunshine here, so all those technical secrets here. Hey, this is the place that you go if you have a fear of flying, or if you know somebody who's got a fear of flying, or if you just like to talk about aviation stuff and kind of keep up with what's going on in the industry. And as such, we're glad to have you. We got a special show for you tonight. Let me click over there and put some slides.
By the way, if you were hoping to see flight attendant Diane,
she's working.
One of us has to work, so
exactly. Good point. Good point. Okay.
She's on a trip.
So again, as I said, this is the Fearless Flight Live weekly Facebook show. And we always mention the Birds of a Feather group. I think we're over 1,700 now and growing. We'd like to keep that trend going that we've had for the last, gosh, how many years have we had a group now, Dieter?
I think since 2019.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right before the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, tonight we're gonna I gotta put a little piece together called Flying Keeps Getting Safer. We'll talk about that. And we want to brief the Air Hollywood class coming up on October 26th, 27th. And we also want to introduce the Phoenix class on November 9th. And then, as always, we'll take your questions and comments with us. So we'll be happy to do that. Okay, so let's just get right into that. Eric and I are gonna banter a little bit about these things. What's happened is aviation keeps getting safer. Now, probably couldn't prove that from some of you who are constantly worried about, and most of you say you're not worried about the airplane crashing or anything, but Eric and I talk about the fact if you weren't worried about crashing on some level, you wouldn't worry about being closed in that little metal tube there. So the recent, oops, that's not sliding. Oh, hold it. I got the questions came first on this. So
I'll make it trickier.
yeah, you thought that was a trick question, didn't you there? Oh boy. Hold it. Stand by one. Eric, do a little tap dancing here. I gotta go get the correct presentation here.
So you guys, he's gonna find the correct presentation. I was just gonna say put them up in random order just to see if you guys are paying attention.
Yeah.
Which would have been the best deal. And then we could have quickly go over it in random order. But what's up now that'll probably disappear is our 301 class in Burbank on October 25th and 6th. And it's kind of a special one because we have access to the Air Hollywood studios on the 25th, and we can do a lot of work there, answer questions, and a really cool mock-up of a sim and gate area and stuff. So if you can make it, that would be good. The ticket prices are creeping up a little bit. In my mind, I'd already purchased them, but I had so much stuff going on, I hadn't. So I bought my tickets today. They were about 95, 99 bucks each way when we first brought it up, but I paid 105, 114 today. So I got a stupid charge of $20. Still very reasonably priced. And if you're thinking about coming, you should jump on that. And it's not that we won't figure it out, but this is going to be the last 301 class before Southwest goes to assigned seating. And so Ron's going to have to do some tap dancing with his gate agent friends. And we're going to have to think of something. But there's obviously going to be an issue boarding us with a group that we hadn't had before. So if you're a little on the fence, maybe get off the fence and think about signing up for this one before we A, have the reserve seat issue, and B, before the ticket prices get any higher.
And that'll be the last one in LA before the end of the year, for the new year. And the one on the 9th of November will be the last one in the Phoenix area. So if you want to catch one, do it then and jump on the bandwagon with us. So, okay, so here we are. flying keeps getting safer, and that's just the truth of it. Eric and I are embarrassed to admit how long we've been involved in the airline industry, half a century for me, and it has gotten safer, and it's really impressive. And it was neat because Eric and I both had a particular role in there, in addition to being airline pilots, in that Eric was involved in the training, and well, I was involved in training too, but I was involved in the human factors end of it. So we saw it firsthand, and we got to teach other people, new people, about that. So how did we get there? Well, this is an MIT.
Ron, are you meaning to share slides with us? Because we're still seeing the special offer. There we go. Flying keeps getting safer. Now we got it.
Yeah. We always try to demonstrate a little bit of human error, because that's always the leftover in aviation safety. So, all right. So here we are. Welcome. We're talking about keeping how flying keeps getting safer tonight. And just an overview, this has elements of a study that one of our favorite people, Arnold Burnett, who is an MIT professor, long-standing there. And I met Arnold online. I saw a first article of his back in 2007, I believe it was. He had done an interesting study. He himself was a former fearful flyer. And so he got involved he's a statistician, and he started investigating just how safe is the aviation industry. And what he concluded, and helped talk himself out of his own anxiety about flying, was it is the safest way to travel on the planet. And he's updated that a couple times, most recently. And we actually had him on right after this study was published around the first of the year. But this was on another article, and so I thought it was newsworthy, and we'll come back and do it. The thing that is really important to remember is the risk of death in air travel has halved every decade. So that means it's twice as safe as it was in the previous decade, every time we break into a new decade. And what he did was he looked at aircraft accidents over this decades-long experience from 1968 to 2022. These are some numbers, and not all that impressive unless you really stop and take a look at them. But if you look back down there in the third bullet point, used to be one fatality in every 350,000 boardings. So if you divide that out to today's numbers, 100,000 departures a day, that'd be about one person killed every 3.5 days, or in terms of departures. But nothing like that. One fatality per 13.7 million boardings. And Arnold used boardings as a more reliable figure than other figures that had been used in the industry before. Here's a timeline, and it talks about Moore's law of aviation safety. And what Moore's law is, Moore was an engineer involved in computer processors, circuit boards, if you will. And what he observed was that this processing speed of your computer and computers around you, the chips, it doubles every 18 months. And so Arnold borrowed that for the airline industry and kind of said the same thing. So every 10 years, it gets half again or twice as safe as it was before. And so that's the parallel between them. Things that contribute to improved safety are, starting on the upper right, technological advances. We'll talk a little bit about those in detail. Training and regulation. Those are all contributing factors to why aviation is so safe. In technology, and I thought Eric and I might reminisce a little bit about seeing some of these things come on board. To collision avoidance system, TCAS. Do you remember when that came on, Eric? We were one of the first to get that, I think, at our.
Yeah, I didn't look that part up, and I wish I had. And that was such a stunning change. To be able to see other airplanes around you and see how they were moving relative to you. And ultimately, if they were on a collision path, it would give you instructions for avoidance, and it would talk to the other airplane and give that airplane instructions to avoid you as well. And it always got
all without ATC. Air traffic control didn't have to say a word. This
Right.
is on board over there.
It
And-
boggled
yeah.
my mind wondering how many airplanes I hadn't seen earlier in my career.
yeah.
When you started seeing all of them, it was I would kind of equate it to the car equivalent of the side mirror detector detecting traffic in the blind spot and the other lane in terms of a
And I think
elite-
that technology came from that, at least part of it.
Probably.
I think it doesn't have the radar part of it there, but I know you've talked about the fish finder aspect of that, Eric.
Yeah, well, the way that it's displayed, depending on the airplane, which screen it's displayed on, but one of our primary screens, and we call it the fish finder because it resembles a little bit Sportsman's fish finding Loran's little targets with the airplane on there, and there's a tag on it of how many hundred of feet below you or above you it is, and the trend on whether it's moving up or down, and the exact movement relative to your airplane is shown the whole time on the screen. So it looks a little bit like a fish finding Loran. So we called it that. I think it got that nickname a day or two after DCAS came out. We just called it the fish finder.
Yeah. And enhanced aircraft design, improved materials and redundant systems. We've always had redundancy, 2 and 3 and 4 backups of certain critical systems. That's improved over the years as well. Improved materials. Many of you probably take it for granted. Of course, as soon as I say that, graphite. What's the name for the new airplane? They have 787 skin. Of course, I can't remember it, but anyway, it's
the composite stuff.
It's composite. Yeah, that's a generic name. Composite materials that are stronger than metal was. Automation and avionics. Again, in part of that, like TCAS, we've got systems that help reduce human error with automation. A lot of that on position reporting and GPS, which leads into the next slide. GPS, of course, has transformed everybody's life. Anybody with an iPhone now can play around with their position. And going equally important as that was training and what we learned from accidents. Sadly, we came up with a program called we have extensive and continuous training, recurrent. I remember you, Eric, talking to me about every time you'd have a check ride, and we did them every 6 months, and what that was like for you stress-wise.
Yeah, I'd get in there and I'd fly it great, but the 3 weeks prior to that, I just wanted to go out in the street and shove children off of their tricycles and stuff because I was in such a horrible mood, stressed out, studying for it. It was just the way I was equipped for the ride mentally, that I would stew over it and it would detract from my studying. And some people just go in and take them, particularly the military guys, because that's all they did was take check rides all the time. So like, big deal. But you're essentially rolling the dice on your job. So I'd get wrapped around the axle pretty well. But at the same time, it motivated me to study really hard, and they all went really well. But the 3 weeks prior to every one for me those were very unpleasant times of my life, and anybody around me as well.
Yeah, and you see a pilot that's studying for the sim, you can tell before he goes in, and the instant he walks out, it's like total relief. It's like when you turn in the biggest term paper of your life or something like that. Crew resource management, that came about from finding out that a very innovative fellow named John Lauber took over the NTSB back in the late 80s, and what he did, he had gone through a program with one of the leading experts in aviation psychology down the University of Texas, Austin. A number of his peers that went through that program down there as well ended up in the FAA and in the NTSB, and he made some dramatic changes. Single-handedly changed the aircraft investigation. It started with a study where they reinvestigated 37 major aircraft accidents, all had fatalities in them, that happened during the previous, I think 10 or 15 years. And he said, we need to know more definitively, when we talk about pilot error, we need to know deeper what that was. And it was instrumental in finding deeper systemic problems that, even though the pilots, because we're the last ones in the chain leading up to an accident often, and we're the last ones that can make a difference sometimes, it was the accident. It occurred because of other errors leading up to that. So it was really innovative, and I think single-handedly that's what led to the crew, the really dramatic reduction in human factor accidents there. And then maintenance training, they also participate in CRM. When it originally came out, the crew resource management was just for flight deck members. And then our airline was the first major airline to incorporate flight attendants into the training. And then eventually maintenance workers and dispatchers got involved as well. So we really took a number on this. And probably the biggest parallel or relevant industry that we could compare would be the medical industry. Everything from recurrent training. Your doctor can come in and nobody's checking him out other than his peers around him. And they found that they had the same kind of power differential issues that we had between the captain and other crew members. And so they've been looking at the airline industry for several years now, trying to replicate, when appropriate, some of the safety measures that we instituted. So you're a little bit safer when you go in for your surgeries and stuff now as well, as a result of this.
Hey, Ron,
Yeah, go ahead.
just got a question in here. So it basically goes to the heart of mainline airlines and budget airlines. Do all the pilots get the same amount of training? And the second question is, do they also get paid the same, or do they get paid less at budget airlines? That's a great question. I don't think somebody ever asked that one before.
Yes and no, right, Eric?
Yeah, with an asterisk there, the training and standards they have to come up to at the regionals is the same as the mainline, and the training is generally just as extensive. And there used to be, for question B, a really big pay disparity between the regionals and the mainlines, and the regionals were losing their guys so fast with the growth that finally they were drug kicking and screaming into compensating their people very, very well. And so a lot of
they were like the minor leagues, feeding people up there. Yeah.
And they're not paying the top scale of the majors, but they're paying very, very such a huge improvement in factors of hundreds of % of what it was. So that they have very good compensation programs, and some people stay for a career and some people don't. But that compensation package has changed radically with the regionals.
And ironically, the industry pilot shortage in the industry has improved those pay rates, because they had to keep the majors from plucking all their talent out of there. So
would then this inference Sandra is asking, would the inference same, the training is the same, but the experience is less than from the
could be you, but you've got, as Eric pointed out, now you've got people that are staying for careers in regional carriers because the pay affords them that opportunity. So generally speaking, the captains are probably going to be more experienced. They still lose people at out of the first officer seat, the junior position on the crew, but the training is the same. And what dictates the regulation, the training, and the operations is the Federal Aviation Regulations. If you're selling tickets for a commercial flight, you are regulated, and every airplane that you can buy a ticket on has to meet the same standards for design, delivery, and maintenance, has to meet the same standards for crew training and all the equipment on board there. So yeah, so if you can buy a ticket on it, it's got to meet those standards and those criteria.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. And and then the other thing that's really, really big, and we're going to address the breakdowns here with the Boeing stuff and all that, but I was going to say generally speaking, but very specifically, there's no other industry that's regulated as tightly and as thoroughly as the airline industry. The regulatory bodies, FAA, I didn't know this before I started researching this presentation. That stands for the European, what did I say that? European Union Aviation Safety. They disregard the U, but European Union Aviation Safety Agency, the equivalent of our FAA for all practical purposes. So they're the regulatory people, and they're restricted adherence to those. Accident investigation, I touched on the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, and how they've made vast improvements in their investigation, and they're not under the FAA's rule, so they don't get intimidated by telling the truth about in accidents. And then we have ICAO, which is the United Nations arm that is kind of like the international FAA. And the U.S. has been a leader all throughout the history of aviation. The only time we probably had a little egg on our face was after the first Boeing 737 MAX crash, where the European nation and Canada were quicker to ground the fleet than we were. I don't know if you remember that, Eric, or not, but so okay. And oops, let me go over here. So disparities. We want to address this a little bit. This was one of the real great contributions that Arnold Burnett, that I spoke about earlier, made, I think. He divided the airlines of the world into 3 tiers. Tier 1, you can see, would include the ES, the European Union countries, Canada, Australia, Japan. China is actually in that as well. Tier 2 would be Brazil, India, Mexico, Turkey, and countries of that nature. And tier 3 would be the remaining countries. And I was joking, if it's got a STAN, like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and those, it's probably in the tier 3 realm there. But basically, these are the top tier. Arnold points out that your chances of dying in an airplane crash in a tier 1 airplane are 1 in 33.2 million. And I know some of you are saying, yeah, Ron, you didn't say 0 in 33.2. No, I didn't, but it makes no matter. It's the safest way to travel on the planet. And interestingly, even in tier 3, they have a better safety rate than the United States did 50 years ago, or maybe even 30 years ago. I forget specifically what that was. But you can see there is a difference. And I don't know, I'll ask Eric as well, but I'm a little more discreet as to who I'm going to fly if I were flying in tier 1 countries like that. I haven't flown on one, so I guess that says something there. I'm pretty much tier 1, and I've flown on some tier 2 carriers. So
yeah.
So anyway. Recent challenges. We wanted to include this because we try to pride ourselves on our honesty and transparency. And despite all this progress, we have had some incidents in the US, which you're well aware of. FAA investigations into the 737 MAX, the infamous door plug incident. Before that, the Boeing 737 MAX 800s, where we had the 2 fatal crashes and all that. But the thing that I think is so worthy of mention is, even including those accidents, we still double our safety every decade. So it's unfortunate, it's sad. As long as there are human beings involved in technology, we'll probably have accidents and fatalities. And the thing I like to advertise to fearful flyers when I do the 15-minute coaching is, one of the things that we benefit most, both Eric and I as pilots and you all as passengers, is that it's not Orville and Wilbur's era anymore. It's 124 years or 123 years into the aviation industry, and technology alone accounts for many of the improvements in safety out there. So
also, tongue in cheek, I'll point out that these improvements are ongoing. This is linear. So if you want to wait till 2030 to buy a ticket, that's not going to have your chances then. You should just go ahead and buy the ticket now and take the improvements that we've made so far this decade.
Yeah. And looking forward, that's what Eric just highlighted there. Improvements are always ongoing. It's a never-ending task within the airline industry, and it does provide reason to be optimistic about that. If you do not fly solely on the basis of your concern about getting in an aircraft accident, you have to really question whether or not you want to even drive to the airport, because your odds are about 200 plus more likely to be injured in an automobile crash on the way to the airport than they would be in an airplane. So I got a few questions just for fun. We'll see if we got any takers on this based on the material we presented tonight. The first one is, what recent findings have MIT researchers, specifically Arnold Burnett and his crew, uncovered about the safety of commercial air travel? A, the risk of fatality in air travel has increased significantly over the past decade. B, the risk of fatality in air travel has remained the same over the past decade. C, it's halved every decade, indicating consistent improvements in safety. And D, the risk of fatality in air travel is unpredictable and varies greatly year by year. You probably pick D if you're as yet on the threshold of trying to overcome your fear flying. If you picked A, we've really dropped the ball tonight, but it is in fact C. It's been halved every year or every decade over the past 50 years.
I got a question.
Okay.
What about Malaysian Air? Is that, I mean, people probably remember the
Right.
accident, but is that, what tier airline is Malaysian Air?
Malaysian, I believe, is a tier 2, but I would have to look it up to be sure.
Okay. All right, that was just a question.
And it might be tier 1. It might be tier 1. But for sure. Yeah, good question. 2, how has the risk of fatality in commercial air travel changed over the past several decades? A, it's decreased and here's all the numbers that you saw up in the slide. B, it's remained constant at 1 per 750 since 1978. C, it's increased from 1.1 per 1.3 million to 1 per 7.9 million in modern times. And D, it's fluctuated with no clear trend. That's one of the questions that I struggled with, but it's A, it's decreased from the lowest incident, 1 per 350,000 boardings, all the way up to where it is today, 1 per every 13.7 million boardings. It's just freaking safe. That's the medical term for it. 3, what is the significance of comparing aviation safety improvements to Moore's Law? A, it shows that aviation safety has doubled every 18 months compared to computing power. B, it highlights the unpredictable nature of improvements in aviation safety. C, it suggests that aviation safety has improved by a factor of 2 every decade, similar to doubling the computing power over every 18 months. And D, it indicates that aviation safety is heavily dependent on technological advancements. I really haven't been doing a good job facilitating. I should have given people a chance to answer those. But anyway, the answer here is C. It has improved by a factor of 2 every decade. And then the final question, how do global disparities, namely the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 airlines of the world, how do those disparities affect the overall picture of aviation safety? A, all countries have the same level of aviation safety with no disparities. B, disparities are minimal and do not significantly impact overall aviation safety. C, the study highlights significant global disparities with countries categorized into 3 safety tiers. And D, global disparities are irrelevant to aviation safety improvements. Well, it's definitely not D, because they're relevant to anybody who flies airplanes for hire. The answer is C. It does highlight that there are disparities between the tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 airlines, but nonetheless, they are improving and they are safer today than the US was 50 years ago. So everybody shares in it. And like everything else in the world, as technology spreads, as information spread, the third world countries, so-called third world, they benefit from that over the time. So that's the formal part of what we had to offer or share with you tonight. I want to bring up there. We want to talk about a couple of things coming up. The first one is the 301. I'll let you work into it and I'll find this other PowerPoint that I got, Dieter.
Yeah, so before we get into that, actually, I just want to say I looked it up. So Malaysian Airlines is tier 2 currently, but it is actually 37th this year in terms of worldwide airline ratings, Skytrax. So I would not worry about flying Malaysian Air personally.
And
That's what I was finding out too, Dieter, except for I was asked about the tiers, but it kept telling me about the frequent flyer program. I'm like, ouch. Couldn't get out of it.
Okay, but talking about infrequent flying and talk about our upcoming Air Hollywood experience. So, Sandra, I know that you're watching, and there's a couple others who have actually participated in our Air Hollywood experience. So, let us know in the comments, how did you like being at the movie studio, being actually in a mock-up airplane?
yeah,
If that at all had a positive impact for you. And as far as dates go, even if you are not local, on Friday, the 25th of April, we'll also have a live stream. So you can watch and obviously also ask questions on the live stream, and we're gonna be facilitating that during the class at the Air Hollywood studios. And then the next day, Saturday, we're flying from Burbank to Sacramento and back. And just like Captain Eric pointed out, this, I don't know when procrastination really ever pays off, but it definitely does not pay off for buying your tickets. And maybe Ron, you can talk about the fact that
this is the 201 or the 301 class. I got it, 201 says on the screen, but really this is a picture that we took years ago when we began our program with Air Hollywood over there. Air Hollywood, the owner is Capt Ron. He has a facility that he leases out to any people in the motion picture industry when they need scenes inside of an airplane, and he has a lot of memorabilia and artifacts from airplanes as well. And he's in a new studio from what he was before because of the post-pandemic changes. But this mirrors what we have. We have actual airline waiting rooms, simulate the security parts of that, and then we have a really nice. We haven't seen the new one. The one that we did last October it's just fabulous. But it's a unique opportunity to get in there and ask questions without the pressure of the airplane moving, or without the pressure of gate agents doing their thing and interrupting us. So it's a great opportunity. Even if you're in the area and you're not going to fly, it's a great opportunity still to come and attend with us. And as Dieter said, it's really an advantage, something you can take with you, and you'll get the replay. If you can use that to prepare for your flights, and use some of the same mechanisms that we do. And it's just a great opportunity for learning, unique in that there isn't any other classes other in the US. EasyJet does this in Europe, but nobody does this other than us over here in major airports. And so we'd love to have you go with us. It's an experience you won't believe. You'll make friends for life with the people in your classmates, and it's the best yardstick you can use to see how you're progressing.
And Sandra said Air Hollywood was great. Helped me for that first flight next day, and I want to say Sandra didn't fly for 60 years. Insane.
Away the record holder. Yeah, it's the next 60 years.
And it's close to her age. We won't say it is her age, so we don't want to embarrass her, but it had to do with it was age related, we'll say. But she was fantastic, and she was just a great model, and she's now an inspiration. She still comes to the monthly Fearless Flyer Club monthly live coaching sessions. She stays connected. She asks me questions when she's got them. She's just a great example of how you can not only get over this, but stay over it. This slide shows the Air Hollywood edition there. The class itself, the tuition regularly priced $397. And if you want to just take advantage of the live stream or just attend in residence, it's 97. And the reason we have this special on the right-hand side of the screen there is because we want you to do this. So right now we have a limited opportunity, and so you're going to get, starting from the top, you're going to get access for 60 days to the Clear for Takeoff 201 online course. That's all the bells and whistles, all the upgrades that we've done, the more than 10 hours of video, all that goes along with it. It's a great resource. With that, you're also going to get 60 days of access to the Fearless Flyer Club. And that includes all of the resources that go along with that at the first class level, membership level, which includes the Fearless Flight Kit. So that's another $197 you'll save by doing that. You're going to get both the 201 course and the club for 60 days access. And at the end of that, if you don't do anything, we will then bill you $57 a month for ongoing membership, but you can quit at the end of that if you want. We suggest you don't, because as long as you're a member of the Fearless Flyer Club, you get continuing access to the 201 course and the monthly webinars. So we really encourage you to stay involved, at least until you are positively convinced that you're gonna, every flight is going to be uneventful for you. Now, if you take this special offer as well, especially if you're in the LA area, you're going to get a coupon for any future 301 class, including the one coming up in October or the one coming up in Phoenix, and where you'll get a $200 discount. So that drops the overall price. The price of the special offer is $197. But if you were to just decide to fly with us and you weren't a member of the FFC or the Clear for Takeoff 201, it's going to cost you $497. If you add up the price of the 201 course, the Fearless Flyer Club, and the 301 class with the $200 discount, you get it for $494. $5, you say? Yeah, but you're going to get the best of everything we've got for $494. And it does not include the tuition, because I mean the Southwest tickets, because for some reason they don't think that we deserve flying for free, and so we all got to buy tickets, including the staff. Okay, so once again, oh, where'd I go? My phone's ringing here. I'm on a temporary location. So a 301, again, $797 regular, 301 tuition, $497, a $300 discount off the regular price if you participate under the terms and the guidelines there. And I don't think there's any reason to mention that again. Coming up to the end of our show here, what we want to mention though is our monthly live group coaching webinar on September 19th. That's the next one. And I've added a reprise on September 21st. So for anybody who can't make it live, because we really encourage you to make the show live if possible. If you can't make it on Saturday or on Thursday, September 19th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, or if you're in the East Coast and it's frankly, you'd rather be in bed at that time, you can attend this. I will rebroadcast live the webinar on Saturday, September 21st at 10 a.m. in the morning, 1 p.m. Eastern. So, and we're going to talk about breaking the cycle. I can't tell you how many people, both students, followers, clients, everybody, or brand new people, because I encourage people to contact me and talk to me and ask me questions. They will be on the night before the class, or they got a flight the next day or the next week, and they will contact me and say, Capt Ron, what do I do? And so I don't want to discount anybody and ignore them, but the first thing I'm going to ask you is, tell me what's going on. What's the trigger? And that's what we talk about. And specifically on this next webinar coming up on the 19th, we're going to go into that, do a deep dive into that. What do you do even when you're feeling current, you're feeling like you won't have any problems, and then you get to the day of the class and voila, or the day of the flight rather, and you get to there and you don't know what to do. So a lot going on. 301 class, both Phoenix and in Air Hollywood in LA and in Phoenix on November 9th. We'll talk more about that upcoming week. And then our show coming up on, or our monthly live coaching webinar coming up on the 19th and the 21st. I'm gonna
Well,
take
Sandra
advantage-
has this to say. She said, the entire class up to flying with everyone was priceless. Best money I've ever spent. Love to keep learning more from the webinars. And I know Sandra is a member of the Fearless Flyer Club, so that's how you can keep current, because most of us don't fly as often. And so a great way to keep current is, exposing yourself to that content, to other people, and engaging with them and with us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Air Hollywood. I think if you're anywhere close to Los Angeles, or you're willing to drive a few hours to get there, this is so worth it.
Yeah.
People pay tens of thousands of dollars a day to rent this movie studio, and Talat, the owner, is very empathetic and sympathetic to our situation and what we do there. He himself has an autism program that is also using the studio. So if you ever wondered what it's like to be in an aviation themed movie studio, this is your chance. And why not overcome your fear of flying in the process?
One of the questions I get all the time, and I'll close with this, will be kind of a teaser, and maybe Eric, if he can attend the webinar on the 19th as well. But fearful flyers ask me all the time, Capt Ron, what's the most serious thing you've ever encountered? And what they want to know is, did I ever scare myself to death, or did I almost die? And the truth of the matter is, most of the time when I scared myself, it was something that I thought I had done wrong, but turned out that I didn't. And there's kind of a parallel to that. Most of the things that we experience in aviation are false negatives. In other words, we had a warning system or something that activates that, but it activated incorrectly. When it comes down to things like having an engine fail at the most critical time, like on takeoff, or having an engine fire, in-flight fire, something like that, I'd say 99.9999% of the time, nobody ever gets that, right, Eric? I mean, we spend a majority of our time in training practicing things that we never experience on the line. And we do that in the simulator, because then if we screw up, we don't hurt anybody. So
I was just thinking, general aviation, that's flying little airplanes around privately by yourself. General aviation 40 years ago was a lot more exciting.
yeah.
Airline flying now, a lot more exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, if you get us off to the side at the events, or want to ask us questions about the other things that have happened, I'll be more than happy to tell you when I've scared myself and to make it interesting. But come to the classes, come to the webinars, and most of all, just keep coming back to the shows, if nothing else. Okay. So thanks, Eric. Once again, thanks, Dieter. We wish our best to Diane, who's out there flying the friendly skies, and all of you. We hope you come back next week for another edition of Fearless Flight Live. So have a great week, everybody. We'll see ya.